So what I'm going to be covering today is just to give you a snapshot, a big picture of how anybody, including you, I don't care who you are, where you are, what ethnicity, religion, what background you're in, you can make money in real estate. So let's start. Okay, so this house, so is 200 grand today. You buy it. You want the deposit is going to be 40K, and the bank will give you 160K mortgage, right? So now, instead of waiting for a long time to 10 years to bring up to 400,000, what I'll do, what else do you think you can do to a property to increase its value? Now, this is the price you pay, right? And what you want is the value to increase. What you want is for the value to increase. So what else can you do instead of waiting for 7 to 10 years to force the appreciation from 200 to 400? What do you think you can do? Refurbish, right? Not to rent, not to flip. You refurbish it. You do work to the property. Now, there are a lot of things you can do to a property. Typically, you can build an extension, you can just find a rundown property. Now, let's say in this case, I spend £40,000 to refurbish it. And now it hasn't gone quite sort of 400,000, maybe it's gone up to 300,000, right? So it's gone from 200 to 300 within a space of 6 months. So now your property has gone up 300 grand, you spend 40K. Now, instead of, you can sell it, if you do sell the property, how much do you make? When you sell it, you bought it for 200, right? So it'll be 300,000 minus 200K, which is your purchase price, minus the 40K, which is you make 60 grand. So you can do what we call a buy and sell. Buy and sell, you make 60 grand. And probably it would take 6 months' time. Is that much quicker? Yes or no? It's much quicker. Or there's a better way, there's another way. Now, because the price has gone up, the value's gone up from 200 and 300. What you can do also is to do something called refinance. Now, I want you to remember, whenever the value has gone up above the price, the bank is always very eager to loan you money based on the value, right? Now, when you bought the property for 200K, the bank loaned you 160. Now, you can now go to the bank and say, hey, bank, my property's gone up to 300,000 now, right? So it's gone up. So can you give me a new loan? And the bank will agree to give you a new loan at 80%. So what's 80% of 300,000? Can someone do a quick calculation? All right, 10% is 30, 20% is 60. So the bank will give you 240,000. Yes or no? All right, 240,000. Now, with the 240,000, you can pay off, well, you have to, because through refinancing, you pay off the original 160,000. What are you left with? What are you left with? You're left with what? 80K, right? This is your cash back. You get back 80K, which incidentally covers the deposit that you put down initially and the 40K that you put down for the work. And that means you are left with what we call a no money in deal, no money in. So that means now through doing work to a property, you refinance it. The end result is you get this property for free. Who thinks that this is a good strategy, a much better strategy? Typically, well, no, there's no tax to pay when you're refinancing, because when you borrow the 240K, the bank cannot tax you on borrowed money. Now, of course, your mortgage would have gone up to 240,000. What you want to make sure is that when you do this, when you rent the property out, the rental income will more than cover the loan on this. And so now you've got a property that has cost you no money whatsoever. Now, knowing that you can refinance within a few months to get back all your money, would it be possible when you get into the deal is to raise this initial deposit of 40K, knowing that when you refinance, you can get all the money back? Yes or no? Yes or no? Because The last strategy, if you were to base on capital appreciation, it's almost impossible for you to borrow for a deposit because whoever will lend you the money would not see this money back for 10 years. But in this case, if you say to an investor to say, look, loan me 40K, I'll give you back all the money plus interest. Would that be pretty good? Yes or no? So that gives you a clue how a lot of people do deals. Is now we're not just talking about investing, we're talking about finding investors to give them a proposition that I'm going to give them more interest than the money they would earn if they left the money in the bank. So it's a win-win situation. And you learn to find deals and you learn to refinance. You need to raise money and you get your money back and you make money for other people. What do you think that's called? I'll tell you what that's called. That's not just called investing. That's called property entrepreneurship, right? So now, of course, I'm going to give you an even better strategy. Now, this is the value of the property. The value equals 200,000. What a lot of people tend to do is to buy the property for 200,000 because that's what the seller wants. And that's what the agent lists the property on the market for. And typically, an estate agent on the market will list the property for more than what it is worth. All right. So the price they might put it on the market for 220,000. That's the price. But typically, when you see a property on any sort of property portal, you will know that they're all inflated by the estate agents. So for people thinking that whatever you see on the market is what it's worth, it's not true. The price is what you pay, but the value is what you get. So typically, whatever you see on Rightmove or Funda or Zoopla, whatever portal you have in your country, all those prices are set by the estate agents. They're always going to be higher than what it is really worth. But truly, a lot of people don't know what the property is worth. But let's say, in this case, the property's value is 200,000. So I begin by ignoring what the price is. I don't care what they're asking for. I start by finding out what the value of this house is, and it's worth 200,000. Now, just because the seller is asking for 200,000, it doesn't mean that I will have to pay them 200,000. In fact, I would insist that I pay a price that is less than what it is worth. In this case, I would buy it for 160K. So you see, now I start with the value, but I pay a price that's less than the value. This is what we call BMV. BMV stands for below the market value. I'm buying the property at below the market value. So now your little voice is telling you straight away, who on earth will sell you a property worth 200,000 for 160,000? Who on earth would do that? Well, if you think logically, nobody should. But do you think, let me ask you a question, do we make decisions in life based on logic, especially when it comes to buying and selling? When we make buying, purchasing decisions or any decisions, typically we make decisions on the emotions and we justify with logic. So for those of you who want to know how I can actually buy a property worth 200,000 for 160,000, I'm going to give you a clue. There are a lot of people who will sell their properties at below the market value if they can get something from you in return. So let me ask you another question. What do you think is the most important skill that you need to acquire in property? What do you think is the number one skill in real estate? It's called negotiation. Right. Negotiation is the number one skill. You know what? Few people actually know how to negotiate properly. And I'll tell you the reason why. And I can demonstrate this. Who here don't like being told no? If you don't like rejections, type me. When you type me, you don't like rejections, that means you're not going to be good at negotiation. Because in a negotiation, you start with no. No is not the end. No is the beginning of your negotiation. This, for me, is a deal. This is a typical BMV deal. Now, why is it important to do this deal and buy it below market value? Well, for a start, when you buy the property at 160, always remember the bank will give you, let's say based on the last examples, the bank will give you 80% mortgage. So what is 80% of 160? Is 128. Thank you very much. 128. So 128,000. And what is your deposit? Your deposit is the difference, which is 32K, right? So just remember, you put down to now 32K, whether you have this money or not. Now, if you know that you can get this money back very quickly, you can raise this. You can raise this. Now, don't forget, whenever the value is higher than the price, the bank will give you a new loan based on the higher value. So once you bought this property for 160, now you can go to the bank and say, hey, bank, look, here's some research. The property is actually worth 200K, not 160K. Can you give me a new loan of 80% of 200? What's 80% what 200? 160. No, this is the new loan, the new mortgage, right? So now when you refinance, this new loan, 160, now you pay off the first mortgage. This is what refinance is about. You pay off the 128. What are you left with? What do you get back? The difference between 160 and 128 is the 32K. The 32K that you put down initially, now you're getting it back immediately on refinance. Why is it immediate or just within a few months? Because you bought at below the market value. You bought the property at below the market value. So now you know that within a few months, I can get this deposit back. I can pay back whoever loaned me the money to begin with. Now I've got this property, no money down. I don't even have to do any work. Is that pretty awesome? I don't even have to do any work. Now with the 32K, what would I do with it? I'm going to buy another property. I'm going to repeat the whole process. And that means I'm going to look for deals through negotiation. I'm going to find people who are willing to negotiate with me. And I'll say to the seller, look, I will help you sell the property very quickly, but you have to give me a deal. So I'll find all of these deals. I'll refinance straight away. I keep recycling my money. So that means if I was going to raise any money, I only have to do it once. I can recycle it over and over and over again.